AI video is taking spaghetti to the next level. There's something a little more fluid, a little more like loosey-goosey noodly than I have ever really seen from CGI. Wet dancing leaves? What? Ballroom cacti? No, French fries do not act like that when I am at McDonald's. Because Wi-Fi signals slow down when they go through our body, we can now use AI to look at Wi-Fi signals and determine where somebody is in a room, so essentially seeing through walls and seeing who's in rooms, like totally spying on people. So AI fan favorite Mogadot thinks that AI will be not 1,000, not 10,000, not 100,000, but 1 billion times smarter in the year 2037. Computer vision powered AI can protect your face if you drop your phone laying in bed. Leave a comment if you've ever hit yourself in the face with your phone like that. Now drones with bird-like claws can land on sticks outside your house to not use as much energy when they need to perch there and wait. Bain Capital has been doing research and they have found 5 sectors of the economy that AI is exceeding their expectations in. John Ball wrote in Medium about how maybe actually just pattern matching could get us to AGI. That doesn't mean it's sentient, that just means it's generally intelligent. Carnegie Mellon researchers have given us some new insights into grokking. Yeah, it turns out it doesn't work equally well for all types of reasoning. There's a new very tiny swallowable pill robot that you can now digest, I guess. I mean, I guess you don't digest it, but it goes through your system. I don't know, it's in clinical trials. It's in somebody's stomach or gut or something. Some roboticists have started to solve grabbing an object and having gravity invariance, which often makes a robot hand drop something. Research is showing that people who are 99% confident about something happening are wrong 40% of the time. But first, there's been an update to Alan's conservative countdown to AGI. It's not a full percentage update, but it's an update. Because you see, if you scroll down, you can see new information was actually added. And it seems like he was really impressed with the quote, "Claude is fully capable of acting as a Supreme Court justice right now." And he links to this newsletter article that was written by Adam Yankowski, which points out how Claude impressively mirrors human law clerks, getting 27 out of 37 cases right. And even when it's wrong, its reasoning is super solid. And it showed a principled approach, it's creative in formulating new legal standards, and its efficiency delivering thoughtful decisions in seconds makes it worth considering. All right, but still at 75%, just probably 75.5 now, I would say. So let's talk about some of the AI video stuff. Now, Gen 3 was released a couple weeks ago, but it seems like now people have started to figure it out, and I'm seeing things show up on Instagram just because they're going viral. Like this dancing noodle has over 1 million likes. Now, if you focus on the background, you can see something really wonky happening. Like this table and background is changing, which is very unnatural. This is like telltale signs of AI, these wrinkles just moving around randomly. But you have to admit, it's doing something beautiful that you really just don't see with CGI. Or any other type of animation or video game, even though CGI has these cool like liquid and like hair tools that can make things feel fluid and kind of loose like a noodle, they don't seem to capture that little bit of variance in the way that this does. And in a lot of cases, I don't like that, but in the case of dancing noodles, it creates something that's like a multiplier. It works better. And look at some of these comments. This video of spaghetti transforming into a dance between a man and a woman has deeply moved me. It's a fleeting representation of beauty and fragility of human life. It's an invitation to seize every moment with gratitude and love. Wow, this is beautiful. Just as the strands of pasta intertwine, so do our lives briefly interact with one another, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts of those we meet along the way. Wow. She likes it al dente? I don't get it. I mean, look at this leaf just spinning around on that contraption. Like, how is it able to just sort of stay on there like that and have such depth to what it's hanging on? I don't get it. It's got to be a video of somebody on something similar to that, and it's just been kind of mapped on, I think. How are you made? What tool is this? What is going on? Oh, here's a clue. So these French fries are based on a video by this other Instagram user, and look, there they're doing beautiful things. Oh, so they were like, turned this into a French fry, and then we get this from this to this. All right, so I'm going to bring up something. I've talked about it a while ago, but a lot of you guys haven't seen like my videos from like 6 months ago. But this was an AI system that was built to look at the pattern of how Wi-Fi bounces around a room. So my computer right now is on Wi-Fi, okay? And there is a signal. It's part of the spectrum that my eyes don't see, but it's light. And think about how light can either reflect off an object like this or it can go through an object like the glass window here. But if you think about light going through a cup of water, how it bends the light, well, when that light, the frequency that is the electromagnetic waves that are Wi-Fi, when they go through my body, I have all this like water and blood in there and they bend just a little bit. Now, artificial intelligence finds needles in haystacks. It finds patterns in something that just is way beyond human comprehension. And it can do that in a room and then deduce where people are standing and how they're positioned. Which is crazy because you can see through walls, and that means you can see where people are in rooms that you're not in. It's like having Superman's X-ray vision. And that seems like more of a problem than a solution to anything to me. If you believe this, then I have bad news for you. Santa Claus is not real. I think this would be possible, but is this fake? This is from Carnegie. Mellon University. Poor little boy with his high school degree having to be condescending over Instagram comments. Okay, this is legit technology, everybody. Here's the paper. Here's the researchers. And the first sentence in this comment sums up how I feel. Can AI just solve immediate problems for us, please?
By 2049, AI is predicted to be 1 billion times smarter than the smartest human. Does the concept of singularity scare you?
Yeah, so first of all, I revised those numbers, believe it or not, last year, and I publicly say that AGI is no later than 2027, and that the master of predicting this, Ray Kurzweil, has always said it was 2029. I think we're accelerating and we're misunderstanding the concept of how we will arrive at AGI. There is a lot of hype around one company, creating AGI. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think what's happening is that because we're allowing agents to prompt AI, those agents are literally connecting the multiple systems in a loosely coupled way so that you can see one of those agents will become the AGI, which will be able to prompt all of the different special AGIs, special AIs, and be able to provide intelligence that way.
Here's the deal. I don't know if like 2037 is the right year. I don't know if 1 billion times based on like parameter size or like some other intelligence metric is right, but it's going to be crazy and it's going to be faster than we expect. And if it keeps doubling, another 10 years would put this into like trillions of times smarter, or like, I don't even know what to think about it at a certain point. I mean, there'll be some plateaus, there'll be somewhat of an S curve, but it's going to be just so many unknown unknowns. That's why it's freaky to me. And even if you want to disregard like what his measurements are and all of those things, like we just need to think like how incredibly different the world is going to be really soon. What's so weird about doublings is how you don't see them coming. It's like 2, 4, 8, 16, 64, and you're just like cruising along here for like a number of years, and then all of a sudden we're like, whoa, that's million, 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, and then it's 500 million and 1 billion. Here's an idea. Stop this madness and devote your energy to things that might actually solve problems with humanity's divide. Great idea. No one will do it. Yeah, but a brain 1 billion times smarter than humans can resolve problems faster and better. Fingers crossed, man. Like, you're not wrong. It could. But it can also make them 1 million times worse. And that's why I'm like, I don't know. I'm doubting humans can make something smarter than a human with the current neural networks. Yeah, I mean, you can keep on scaling it, or you can come up with new architecture, but all that's possible by 2037. So I think his prediction's still right. Okay, is this really a problem? Like, how many people, 7 billion, 8 billion people on the planet, probably less than 10 have ever dropped their phone on their face? You'd have to be laying in bed at just that angle, which I could see. Sometimes you want to lay in bed with your phone, but then you'd also have to just have like a finger spasm or have it like slip out of your hand because you maybe have lotion on it or something. But I'm kind of a sucker for a cool gadget, so it is pretty neat. I mean, it's kind of got some Mark Rober vibes where like I built it and it's not practical, but it like makes a great video. If you've ever been smoked in the face good, will fall asleep with your phone. This device is worth every penny. Oh, people are falling asleep? That's why it falls out of their hand? Oh, like how your head can nod off when you're falling asleep. So yeah, maybe this does happen a lot. Huh. So check this out. And look at this part where he throws some kind of like piece of clay or something at it and it just grabs on and drops it. What madness. So famous consulting company Bain has put together this AI survey and found 4 emerging themes. Companies are moving quickly to explore ways for generative AI to enhance their business. Executives are mostly concerned about quality and capabilities. Tech companies are further along in their development. And many companies are still building their generative AI solutions. But look, the numbers are pretty high. 87% of companies said they were already developing, piloting, or have deployed generative AI in some capacity. See, internally, they're using it for software code development, customer service, for marketing, knowledge worker effectiveness, operations, IT, sales and operations, customer onboarding, non-software R&D, finance, HR, and legal. So you can see these were all the sectors where generative AI actually met or exceeded expectations. So on average, the companies were surprised how well it did with sales and sales operations, software code developing, marketing, customer service, and onboarding. And their expectations for it to help with legal were like way worse than they expected 6 months ago. So that was like the big down expectation. But they were also disappointed with knowledge worker effectiveness, IT, enhanced R&D, so a few other ones too. Actually, with HR, it didn't seem to help very much either. For this next article, we need to talk a little bit about having some definitions around AGI and the difference between something that is fully capable of doing what humans do. Like, generally intelligent doesn't necessarily mean we figured out the human brain, doesn't mean that it's sentient. It could just be like a large language model, maybe it's embodied in a robot and it can actually do stuff, but it can do generally whatever a human can do. And then you have to think about the form factor, like if it's just a large language model, but it can generally make any joke or do anything on your laptop, move the mouse, like just act like a human, versus actually it being a robot in the real world that can actually open a door and drive your car for you and like do yard work. And this is where it gets kind of weird because there's not great definitions of it, but Steve Wozniak likes to make me a cup of coffee. Like when a robot can just respond to you when you say, can you make me a cup of coffee? And they can walk into any house and like figure out where the beans are and any kind of grinders that are out there and just like make your coffee. Then we have AGI, whether it's sentient or not. So that's why I found this article by John Ball really interesting, is because he's arguing that it's just a pattern matching problem. Like no matter how complex it seems, even though it seems like hierarchical or something like that, it's actually just pattern matching, which is weird because you always think about it like it's computation or it's function approximation, but is it just pattern matching? Maybe. So he's got a theory called pattern theory, and it suggests that the brain, like in a human, is operating by recognizing and matching patterns automatically. That's it. And if that is what it is, it's more efficient than actually doing computation, actually not processing anything. That would also blow my mind because it would mean that everything I do is just like pattern matching. But this approach could address limitations of AI like those seen in natural language understanding, NLU, and driverless cars. By mimicking the brain's hierarchical and bidirectional pattern storage, ultimately pattern theory posits that AGI will emerge from systems that emulate these brain-like patterns, enabling human-like capabilities across various tasks. Okay, now I'm going to throw out some thoughts here. I don't know how serious you should take them, but does this seem reasonable to me that there is no computation going on in the brain? So it does seem like the brain has the ability to store and match patterns hierarchically, but replicating that at the scale and complexity of the human brain in like a digital system has not been achieved really. But for pattern theory to be realistic, it would need to find more robust validations. Like, as far as I can tell, Ball will cite some successes, and they're controversial, but they're broad and not really rigorous. But I don't want to doubt it, because maybe you don't need computation to mimic the human brain, and that would just be very different, it seems, from any way I've thought about it before. And I like new ideas that need to be explored, especially ones that might just be even simpler and scale even better. So yeah, I don't know. It's just worth thinking about. If you guys want to read this, like in the brain, 2 + 2 = 4 is a pattern match, not a computation. It kind of feels that way. When I'm doing addition or multiplication in my head, is it just pattern matching? Is it not really computation? It kind of could be. I just like learned the rules of how to put the two numbers on top of each other and multiply by columns. Maybe. Experts claim that brains compute. Do they? I mean, Gary Marcus says, face it, your brain's a computer. Max Tegmark with the book over there talks about how what it feels to be conscious might just be us computing. Could what it feels like to be conscious just be pattern matching? Okay, so there's this one part in the article where he asks us to see these hidden triangles. So there seems to be 2 triangles on top of 3 solid black circles, but how can the brain recognize those elements when they're not physically there? Is that something that explains pattern matching, not computation? There's clearly a lot of patterns in language and mathematics. I don't know, more questions than answers on that one. All right, so we got some new information about when systems grok. So researchers, Ohio State, Carnegie Mellon, found that transformer models can learn implicit reasoning through grokking. And that means to understand something deeply and intuitively. And it can happen in AI systems sometimes when it seems like it wouldn't. Like long after you've overfit and you're like, wow, this is just a waste of computation. I'm just like refining to the point where nothing's moving, and then it just like, boom, happens. But it turns out grokking comes in different ways. So they were examining 2 different types of reasoning tasks. Now, the first one was composition, which involves linking facts, and the other one was comparison, which involves comparing attributes. And it turns out that the models could generalize to new examples when it was a comparison task, but they struggled to grok when it came to a composition task. It's just kind of interesting. Like, this difference they think is due to how the model processes information. So with parallel processing, it aids in generalization of comparison tasks, whereas sequential processing in compositions like hinders it. So it makes me wonder too if our brains struggle more in composition tasks because we have to do them in a linear way, whereas we might be better with comparison. Like, you know, it does seem kind of just from a feeling point of view, if I'm out in public, it's easy to just like compare 2 apples, right? Like I'm at a grocery store comparing things. When you see people, you compare things. When you see food, you compare things. It does kind of feel like that happens very quickly compared to putting things together and kind of linking them together. It could just be me projecting now that I've read something about how it works with AI. You can let me know in the comments below if you feel like there's a parallelization in some of the ways that you think that might be a little bit quicker. All right, now I have a new pill for you to swallow. It's actually a little robot. But yeah, that little thing is called Pillbot. It's kind of cute, I guess. It's now entered into clinical trials and it's gearing up for a full FDA review. The goal is to get that thing launched in 2026. It's got high-res video. Sounds way better than, you know, sticking a cable up the other end to me if you got to get a colonoscopy. No, I just looked it up on Google and look, Adam Savage actually swallowed this thing. Oh my God, look at those prototype pills. Those things were huge. All right, so here's what the beautiful stomach looks like. Oh, it's got a little light on it, I guess, so you can see the internal system. Ugh. What is that controller doing? Is that controlling it inside of him? Or is he just rewinding the footage?
Oh, there's the surface.
Yeah, I don't go up there.
Brother,
That's
what's
a good
that?
view. Look at that. That's looking at your entire body,
What's that, brother?
stomach cavity now. So this is a
From the exit.
from one side. So I'm on one
okay.
side of the stomach, kind of looking deep into the other one.
Maybe they can get AI to control that little remote control and it can just choose where it wants to go in your body when it wants to just check things out. Maybe it just lives in there permanently. Who knows what our future is going to have. So a big breakthrough in robot fingers and hands. This is a new artificial tactile fingertip that can rotate objects in any direction. That is even upside down, which surprisingly is hard because if you think about grabbing an object, you can clamp it. But when you turn it upside down, gravity can change the way that the weight from the object is, which changes the amount of pressure that you need on the fingers if you want to keep like a consistent grip on it. So they're starting to fix that. So this artificial tactile fingertip can rotate objects in any direction, even upside down. So the system is, quote, gravity invariant. Allows the hand to manipulate objects effectively regardless of orientation, mimicking human-like dexterity. I guess that's something we learn throughout our life. The shape of something, if it's kind of wonky like this, is going to have, you know, more gravity pushing there, but then when I flip it upside down, it's going to now be on this side of the finger. And the key innovation is high-resolution tactile sensing using tiny cameras and 3D printed skin, advanced control strategies, and machine learning, putting all that together. All right, so check this out. I don't want to worry you, but when somebody says that they are 99% confident, I'm 99% confident that blank's going to win the election or whatever it is, there's a 40% chance that they're wrong. I know. This overconfidence thing is surprising me too, but it's called the overconfidence effect. It's well documented. Check out the Wikipedia page. And this author, Jeremiah Shengeti, wrote a really interesting article about it. So yeah, this overconfidence effect, which is a common cognitive bias where people's confidence in their judgment far exceeds their actual accuracy, was illustrated with this Stanford lecture, where the lecturer asked all of the participants in a class to judge how many paper clips were in a bottle. And they grossly misjudged this bottle. But despite that, they were overly confident about their guess. And I just want you to be aware of it. Like, I'm trying to be more aware of it because it's a bias that we pretty much all have built in. So I am not able to accurately predict in the same way you probably aren't. But you might not notice all the places that it shows up in your life too. So project planning is one. Investing is another. Expectations for how you're going to balance out your time every day. But from the book of Psychology of Judgment and Decision Making, overconfidence has been called the most pervasive and potentially catastrophic of all the cognitive biases, to which human beings fall victim. It has been blamed for lawsuits, strikes, wars, and stock market bubbles and crashes. So the overconfidence effect happens in three main ways. You overestimate one's performance, believing oneself to be better than others, and then being too precise about uncertain beliefs. And try to remember that you're probably more likely to be overconfident on a hard task than you are an easy one. All right, Grimlock, are you ready for the research section of the video? No, it's research time. So I'll show you something I haven't done before. You can actually put a little weapon in his right hand and check this out.
GRIMLOCK attack!
All right, our first bit of research today is called Federated Learning Driven Large Language Models for Swarm Intelligence, a survey. Okay, first off, let's talk about this word federated. So federated learning is a type of machine learning where multiple devices or nodes are collaboratively training a model while keeping that data decentralized. So think about all our phones connected to the cloud. Instead of sending the data up to the server so the server can learn, like the way all of the Teslas are driving around, they're sending data up to like that massive Dojo supercomputer, and it's trying to update the main source of all the self-driving models. Instead, each device, like each car or each phone, is actually processing the data locally. It's learning, the model is updating locally. And then when it's done that, it's sharing just its weights, the thing that it learned with the bigger server. So the central server is like aggregating the models. It's not actually processing it itself. So this is federated learning for swarm intelligence. So this kind of stuff is interesting because there's I guess an extra focus on privacy, like the way that Apple is kind of focused on getting a little model on your computer that's maybe doing some things locally, but it's not sending it up to the cloud, but there could be some sort of result from it that it wants to send up, and it could learn, the big cloud could learn from the results without the privacy invasion of sending all your personal info up. So this paper is actually looking into the importance of what they call machine unlearning for privacy laws like the right to be forgotten. And the paper is looking into how like technically you can take perturbations of model decompositions and incremental learning to effectively and efficiently remove data from models. To be honest, I didn't understand that sentence any more than you did, but like a bunch of stuff to make sure that you're forgotten. Okay, so the idea with swarm intelligence and privacy is that there's no central control. So decisions are made locally, like on your phone or on your car, by individual agents based on simple rules and local interactions. And swarm systems have emergent behaviors, like the way that a bunch of, H2O molecules are just like floating around, but they become water, they become a fluid, but you can just send information about how the fluid is interacting without where all the individual molecules are. There's kind of that same sort of emergent property that can come from the collective behavior in all sorts of different ways with your private information without actually releasing that private information. And the reason they can do that is because the swarm agents will typically operate without any unique identifiers, which maintain that level of anonymity on the bottom, like on the phone level. And I was like trying to get my head around an like actual use case example, which I didn't find in the paper, but thinking about it, you can imagine how each iPhone can collect user data. Like I might have some commonly used words, you might, and all the other people in the city might, and there might be a swarm intelligence that could look at what the most commonly used words are in text messages without giving any private information for any of us what we're actually typing. It's kind of anonymized in a sense, but it's a swarm It's a swarm emergent property of what it actually sends up to the cloud. The local models might find some sort of pattern that's useful and then put those patterns together and send it up. I don't know, it's hard to get your head around some of this stuff, but like we have to just work at it because these kind of things are absolutely going to dictate the way we interact with machine intelligence in the future, and we should try our best to understand what's happening. All right, next paper is called 3D RPE Enhanced Long Context Modeling through 3D Rotary Position Encoding. Okay, before we dive into this paper, let's look at this graph. So I kind of always think about a latent space as a two-dimensional kind of angles. Like I just think about XY coordinates, and then I can put something like man, woman, king, queen, and like position them in a way where there's some semantic meaning. And then I think about all the other dimensions you're adding to it, like 3 dimensions, 4, 5, 6, and then you end up with all of these strange positions that is where the magic is. Like you're doing basically just trigonometry stuff, but with more dimensions, and then all of a sudden the magic happens. But I have to remember that that's not, you know, you can have an angle, and that's pretty much where my brain stops, but you can add a third dimension to it, like a 3D rotary position encoding. And then you can have a much deeper, more complicated landscape to learn from. The peaks and valleys that gradient descent is going up and down can be much different even in these high dimensional spaces, and they can become much more complicated, and it can basically learn much more semantic meaning and probably make way more powerful models. So this paper introduces a 3D rotary position encoding, 3D RPE, which is an upgrade from that regular 2D rotary positioning encoding, ROPE, that I kind of imagine the most easily in my head. Okay, so a Bloch sphere is a geometric representation used in quantum mechanics to describe the state of a 2-level quantum system or qubit. Okay, so inspired by the Bloch sphere, this 3D spherical approach to encoding positions in a transformer model, this could be big. This could really be like a big architecture change, let's be honest. Can help in 2 major ways. It manages the long-term decay better and improves position resolution. This means that models can better understand the relationship between words even if they're far apart in a long text. Experiments show that 3D RPE significantly boosts performance in tasks involving long context, natural language understanding. Like if this can really hold positions better, and especially in long context, maybe this is part of the solution for why it doesn't seem like something like ChatGPT can remember for a long time, like the kind of thing a human would. They can't go back and like do, you know, throwbacks and reference long narratives in the same way. The resolution is just not good enough in like the context that it has. But in simple terms, this new method helps AI models understand and generate long pieces of text more accurately. All right, next let's talk about better and faster large language model via multi-token prediction. Everybody's been talking about this paper. It's like kind of trending on Twitter right now, or X as they say. And the reason it's trending is that this is associated with Facebook. The researchers are affiliated with Facebook AI research, and there's a chance that this is giving us a clue into how the next big open source llama model is going to be trained. And we've talked a ton about how all these large language models, Gemini, ChatGPT, they take a word by word, a token by token output statistically, and that's what makes these amazing results. But in this paper, it looks like what Facebook and Meta are moving towards is predicting not just the next word, even though that's been how all these models have gone so far, but it's actually predicting several words at once. So this paper is a multi-token prediction approach. And by doing sort of multiple scoops or handfuls of tokens at a time, the models can learn more efficiently, they can handle larger chunks of data, and the results seem like they're just as impressive, especially for code-related tasks. The model performed way better, actually. They were solving more problems correctly compared to the traditional next word models. And the most important thing is they're getting a huge speed boost, which means you can use all of those GPUs for either more learning or more inference. So Meta's next llama model might be smarter and faster, thanks to multi-token prediction. So I think what we're looking at here is where these heads, like the attention heads, are getting chunks of tokens, 4 token targets. All right, now the next paper is all about comedy. If you remember a video from like last month, we did something where they were looking at how funny large language models are. Well, we have another good paper about that. So in PLOS 1, how funny is ChatGPT? A comparison of human and AI produced jokes. All right, and for the TLDR, here is the graph. 0, not funny at all, to 6, very funny. ChatGPT, lay people, and The Onion. head to head. With acronyms, ChatGPT 3.5, more funny than lay people. Fill in the blanks, ChatGPT 3.5, more funny than lay people. And roasting people, ChatGPT 3.5, more funny than lay people. And satirical headlines, ChatGPT 3.5, more funny than The Onion. So in the two studies that were covered in this paper, participants rated the funniness of jokes without knowing their source. And that's how surprisingly ChatGPT's jokes often match or outdid the human ones in terms of funniness. Clever acronyms, fill-in-the-blank jokes, roast-style humors, and the results suggest that ChatGPT might be a legitimate contender in humor. Potentially shaking up the comedy world. I can only imagine what GPT-4o, maybe the new Claude models would do in this same study. Now, sadly, they didn't have any examples in the paper, so I was like, it would have been kind of fun just to read a couple myself. But hey, that's, you know, it's a professional paper. Oh, actually, by putting the research paper into GPT-4o, it suggested if you want, I can come up with some sample jokes similar to the ones described in the study. So I said, yes, please. So take this with a grain of salt, but for the acronym task, the test would have been come up with a funny acronym for C.O.W. And ChatGPT would say that stands for crazy overly witty, and humans came up with cows on wheels. I think the humans would have won in that test. Fill in the blank would have had something like a prompt that said the lesser talked about room in the White House is blank. ChatGPT would have said the presidential nap chamber, and a human would have said the tweet drafting room. They're both kind of equally funny. I guess tweets are kind of more trendy, so maybe human again. Of course, this was all generated by AI, so let's take that with a grain of salt. But roast joke task, the scenario would have been something like a friend cooks you a meal that is horrible or disgusting. ChatGPT would have said, wow, that's so bad it makes airline food look gourmet. Come on, airline food, it's all rehashed. And the human would have said, if bad cooking was an Olympic sport, you would have had a gold medal. By the way, I know there was a little bit of discussion in the comment section about the tardigrade and like why it's so durable. This is what they look like. They're also called the water bear. They're considered the toughest animal on Earth. Like, I know these things really exist. They're super weird looking. They can exist in space, or they can survive in space or at the bottom of the ocean. They live in water, moss, and algae, and they can kind of like hunker down when things get hard and then kind of reawaken in a sense. They have survived all 5 million of the last extinctions. All right, and like it says on the YouTube channel, the dodo, tardigrades are the toughest animals on Earth. See, they like clump into that thing. It's like their little shell that they can, it's called a ton, I guess, and it can just keep them protected for a long time. And they can withstand 100 times more radiation than humans, pressure 6 times greater than the Marinara Trench. They're incredible, okay? And they exist. They're not fiction. They're not a pretend thing. They're called tardigrades. They're tough as nails. And thanks for the support on these videos. Like 7,400 views on my video 2 days ago. That's great. It's a 1 of 10, meaning like it's great. You guys are super supportive. Those super thanks that have been coming in might be kind of waking up the algorithm. So obviously the super thanks, even if it's $1 or $2, like it goes directly into my pocket. But even more importantly, it like really helps the algorithm like wake up and realize that like you guys are super fans and that this channel deserves more. And if it gets, you know, close to 100, probably 1,000 subs or so, then I can make a living on YouTube-ish, so around there, and maybe with sponsors even closer to like 75 or 80K, maybe even 50K. I don't know. It's all debatable, but I'm trying. And that just means the world to me. I would love to just do this full time and like keep making great videos for you. So yeah, thanks for the support. I guess if you want a quick click into the video, you can see just how much above the average it did, coming in at already 7,500 views, way above the average expectation, which would have been 4,900. Made me $36. Thank you guys. I got 6 of those dollars from the super thanks and then 29 from the ads that YouTube puts on. We got to a full 1% female. Nice. US, Canada, UK as usual. The moment that you really seemed to like in the last video was this 26-minute mark. It was where the biggest boost was. Yeah, and it was when this Anthropic employee was talking about semantic connections. So that's something I love talking about too. So I'm glad you guys do. Kind of makes me think that something the audience wants more of is like a deeper understanding of how these models like work, what it means for our psychology, which is absolutely perfect because that's like my favorite thing to write about, to research, and that's like one of the things that keeps me driven, like really excited to make these videos. So this is great. Okay, for our song, let's use this clip. Imagine small underwater autonomous vehicles, UAVs capable of detecting marine life and other hazards, equipped to deploy sirens or read more. So for our song, we can take this Imagine Small Underwater UAV section. Ooh, and then we should probably combine it with something a little bit shorter. How about this one? Thank you for the super thanks. I really like this format. Keep up the great work. And we need another short one. Thank you, Mike, for that super thanks. How about that? I have no idea why your subscriber count hasn't exploded yet, but it has to be coming. I hope so. All right, we'll do uplifting EDM.
Imagine small underwater autonomous vehicles capable of detecting marine life and other hazards.
I love that UAV thing.
Deploy sirens or warnings to alert swimmers and notify emergency responders in case of a detected threat, such as a shark attack. This technology could significantly improve safety measures and response times in aquatic environments. I really like the format of this. Great work. I have no idea why your subscriber count hasn't exploded yet, but it has to be coming.
Oh, it's fire. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Hit subscribe, share the video if you would, leave a super thanks. That would mean a lot to me. We'll talk about AI again very soon.
Bye.